You know, I thought I felt bad, and I did, about Donald Trump winning the election. I thought that I felt the worst that you could feel. And then I came across what we're going to talk about in this segment. And I realized it could get worse. And it did. And it will for you. Sorry, as we go through these clips. You've seen from this interview clips floating around, but because of the gravity of what's being discussed here, it was a pretty expansive interview. I want to do a forensic breakdown of it. Okay, so it's probably gonna be a long segment, but bear with me as we go through each topic, because while some got more attention than others, every single clip here you need to watch. And that's what we're gonna do. This is on Meet the Press. Kristen Welker interviewed Donald Trump, and on every single question, his answer made me feel even worse than before about him becoming the next president of the United States, and how he's not prepared for it, and it could be quite disastrous. While you're watching this, please do click the subscribe button if you appreciate this show. Here's Trump being asked about his concepts of a healthcare plan. This is something you've probably seen if you've seen the other shows. And he doubles down on how, we just concepts, that's good enough.
And then he voted against. Nobody understands it.
Sir, you said during the campaign you had concepts of a plan. Do you have an actual plan at this point for health care?
Yes, we have concepts of a plan that would be better.
Still just concepts? Do you have a fully developed plan?
Let me explain. We have the biggest healthcare companies looking at it. We have doctors. We're always looking because Obamacare stinks. It's lousy. There are better answers. If we come up with a better answer, I would present that answer to Democrats and to everybody else, and I do something about it. But until we have that, or until they can approve it, but we're not going to go through the big deal. I am the one that saved Obamacare, I will say, and I did the right thing. I could have done the more political thing and killed it, and all I had to do is starve it to death.
You did try to have your Justice Department effectively kill it, though,
No.
sir.
Kill it from a legal standpoint, but from a physical standpoint, I made it work.
And it only gets worse from there. Number one, Obamacare is as popular as it's ever been. More popular right now than ever before. So Americans disagree with him on that. Even though I agree we should make changes, but probably in the opposite direction than he would want to make them. Number two, I don't know if no one told him how disastrous that moment from the debate was where he said concepts of the plan, and he says it again proudly. Do you know how insulting that is? That since the 2016 campaign, for years and years and years, we're getting close to a decade of Trump telling us that he has vibes about a plan he might propose. Number three, he didn't save the Affordable Care Act. He tried to kill it. Failing to do something doesn't mean you defended the thing that you were trying to go after. That wasn't the best way I could word it, but you can't say, I want to destroy Obamacare. That's my goal. Fail to do so, then take credit for saving it. That's deranged, and that's what he's doing. And to say we're always looking at it, number four, we're just sort of looking. We're looking until we can have a revelation about a better plan, is so insulting to every person who is failed by the broken aspects of our healthcare system. Then on the election, he claimed it was rigged whenever he lost. Then he wins, and all of a sudden our elections aren't rigged anymore. Crazy stuff. And he was asked, why is there a contradiction there? And his answer is this.
Democrats have control of the White House now. They didn't in 2020. If they are going around stealing elections, why didn't they do it?
When you say Democrats have control now?
Of the White House.
Yeah.
So why didn't they steal this election? Since they have more power now.
Because I think it was too big to rig.
Democrats have control.
What does that mean? What does that even mean? When their conspiracy theory was that millions and millions and millions of votes like this in machines, boom, Dominion would flip votes. No evidence of that. But then, to Kristen Welker's point, if when you were in the White House, you were the most powerful person in the federal government, they were able to steal it, Why would it not be easier for them to steal it when they're the ones who are powerful in the government? Oh, because it's not premised on logic and people don't care about that contradiction. They liked feeling like it was rigged so they didn't have to accept they lost. And now they say, we have to all accept we must be wrong because they won when they didn't do that when we won. It's all so distorted and diluted. On the same topic, you have them saying this.
If I won that election, which you know how I feel about it, I won't get into it because we don't need to start that argument. I think it's an easy argument. It was really proven even more conclusively by the win that I had on this one. But
you did get a point, sir.
Well, that's your opinion, but I disagree with it.
Kristen Welker seems so like she's feeling so guilty when she has to fact check him there. No, let's get into the argument. Let's do it. Let's remind people how when you win, you say it's not rigged. When you lose, you say it is. Not because of facts, but because of your fifis. And I say again, we are never going to falsely claim an election was illegitimate. And by we, I mean the actual people in power like President Joe Biden, who conceded, unlike when Trump was president, he did not. But it is outrageous that they get to do it. We won't. And it's indicative of the unequal playing field we're always playing on that is really infuriating. Then here, the conversation goes a little bit further on this topic.
Sir, I don't have to tell you this because you've talked about it. It comes at a time when the country is deeply divided. And now you're going to be leading this country for the next 4 years. For the sake of unifying this country, will you concede the 2020 election and turn the page on that chapter?
No. No, why would I do that? But let me just tell you, when you say the country is deeply divided, I'm not the president. Joe Biden's the president.
But you're going to be the president.
No. I'm not the president. So when you say it's deeply divided, I agree. But Biden's the president, I'm not. And he has been a divider.
Yeah, I'm not. I've addressed that whole projection from Trump a gazillion times. Let's just not even go there. We have so much more, and we're already 8 minutes in the segment. So on the question, he still won't concede. And so don't give me this, oh, stop bringing that up. Stop bringing it up. That's the past. We want to move forward. Which I've been hearing a lot. I just recently appeared on a show. I'll wait to name it until the episode actually comes out. But we debated a bunch about numerous topics connected to the 2020 election. And there was that sentiment of stop bringing that up. We're talking about what's going forward. And I'm saying, no, that's the core principle of democratic respect. Do you have a respect for a democratic process? And the fact that he gets to get away with just moving past it is a great injustice. But going on from that topic, here, Trump says, no one used the word grocery before, but I find it to be such an interesting word.
I won on two things, the border, and more than immigration. You know, they like to say immigration. I break it down more to the border, but I won on the border, and I won on groceries. It's a very simple word, groceries. Like almost, who uses the word? I started using the word.
Literally, everyone. Who uses the word groceries? Literally, everyone. Unless you've never gone grocery shopping in your entire life because you're so pampered and out of touch. And this is who's going to be our working class hero.
Groceries. Like almost, who uses the word? I started using the word. The groceries, when you buy apples, when you buy bacon, when you buy eggs, they would double and triple the price over a short period of time. And I won an election based on that. We're going to bring those prices way down.
I want to pause here because
he likes tariffs even when they're going to spike prices because he says the word is the most beautiful word. He likes saying groceries because no one ever said that before, but then he started using it and all of a sudden people care about groceries. Groceries. They call them groceries. And then he cites examples. Apples. What else did he say? I don't know. Eggs or something. We know what groceries are. Oh no. And maybe that level of out of touchness is why his solution to prices being too high is to implement policies that will raise them if he follows through on his tariff plan. And again, on the same show that I just referenced earlier, when I debate with conservatives, the response is, oh my gosh, this country has very broad tariffs. That country has very broad tariffs. We've leveraged tariffs in ways that have been effective this way, that way. And the distinction is, number one, these broad across the board in our three biggest trading partner type proposals. Even if you think in the long term it would yield positive results because we'd bring supply chains back to America, I'm saying as a basic point, the people, as he admits, who put him into power because of price issues that they misdiagnosed the cause of, but we won't get back into that, are going to be mad if prices spike. Even if you think that's what should happen, let's spike prices, but it'll help with manufacturing jobs. Even though Biden and Harris have done a manufacturing boom without doing that, but even if that's your stance, I'm just telling you that the people who were mad about prices are going to be mad again. Or Trump will mislead them and say it's because of their local town migrant. That's why prices are going up. Then you have this.
When you think about your time in office, you are making history for a range of reasons, including the fact you will be the oldest person to be sworn into office. Do you commit to releasing your medical records?
Sure. I do it all the time. I think I've released 4 of them.
Not just a letter, though, your full medical report.
Yeah, I would, and I think anybody should, but I mean, according to all the reports, I don't want to, where's wood? Is there some wood where I can knock on wood? But my reports are very good, very strong.
So you plan to release
Sure,
them?
I have no problem with.
Yeah, he plans on them from the standpoint of not releasing it. Well, he'll release them, and by that he means he'll say they're good. Now he's released them. He didn't release them. Harris did. And it's perfectly reasonable to want transparency from someone who's going to be in office, especially at his age. Then on NATO, he's asked, would you commit to keeping the United States in NATO?
Will the United States stay in NATO while you're in office?
In where?
NATO. Do you commit that the United States will remain a member of NATO while you're in office?
Again, they have to pay their bills. If they pay their bills, absolutely.
But not if they don't pay their bills.
But NATO's taken advantage of us because we were, look, 2 things. Number one, they take advantage of us on trade, meaning the European nations, okay, like terrible. They don't take our cars, they don't take our food product, they don't take anything. They take, it's a disgrace. And on top of that, we defend them. So it's a double whammy. So let me just tell you, I was able to get hundreds of billions of dollars put into NATO just by a tough attitude. I said to the countries, I'm not going to protect you unless you pay. And they started paying. And that amounted to more than $600 billion. That's a big thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be fighting. They wouldn't have any money to fight. If they're paying their bills, and if I think they're doing they're treating us fairly, the answer is absolutely, I'd stay with NATO.
But if not, you would consider the possibility of
Absolutely,
getting
yeah, absolutely.
Well, there are always things we could hope for in terms of our allies acting in ways more advantageous to us, and blah, 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 blah. It's wild that MAGA doesn't see the ways in which the United States, the reason why we've been so pro-NATO is because we benefit a lot from such a defensive military alliance. The global leverage, the global relationships, and the global stability that comes of such relationships and such an institution as NATO is really, really good for our own national security. When you know that going to war with, entering into a conflict with any NATO country means bad, okay? To put it in terms that Mr. I just heard of the word grocery man could understand. It means bad times. Is good for global stability, which is why we haven't had to, except for when it comes to 9/11, invoke Article 5. But Trump likes people to believe, even in cases where it doesn't make sense, that he's the great negotiator. And so he says, I got them to pay their bills. We've explained before how he doesn't understand the minimal funding that goes towards like NATO buildings or something that all the countries contribute to is completely different than asking countries or wanting countries, which is a part of the recommendation if you're in NATO, to spend more on their own defense. You're not paying bills to NATO. You're not paying bills to the United States when it comes to the big numbers he's talking about. And even before he got into office, the trend had been that countries were slowly upping how much they spend on their own defense. So when he cites, we spend 3% of GDP or whatever it might be, and they only spend this percentage of GDP on NATO, on the bills, it shows, oh no, he doesn't know how NATO works, because that's not at all. We spend that percentage on our own national defense. And if you're saying we should cut that because that means we're paying to, it doesn't even make any sense. So I don't know how to argue with him. He's just pulling things out of his rear end like tariffs that will spike prices and how we get them down. Then on his promise, at one point he alluded to ending the war in Ukraine, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, in 24 hours, even from when he's elected. Well, that didn't happen. He's asked about this and he says, I'm trying.
You said you can end the war in 24 hours. You've even said you want to try to end it before you're sworn into office. You're actively trying to?
I am.
Have you talked to President Putin?
No, I have not.
You haven't talked to President Putin since you've been elected?
No. Well, I don't want to say that, but I haven't spoken to him recently.
So you've spoken to President Putin since you've been elected?
I don't want to say that. I don't want to say anything about that because I don't want to do anything that could impede the negotiation.
But you
I want to stop
talked
it.
about
Let me
the
tell you
other
what I have
world
talked
leaders.
about. Let me tell you.
What was the thing he said? I'm actually forgetting. The one time he said what his way of ending the war would be. Oh, I know what it was. There we go. Just to give you the magnitude of the high level negotiations he's engaged in. He said he would call up Putin and say, you gotta settle. And then he'd call up Zelensky and go, you gotta settle. And then it would be over. Oh my gosh, that didn't work. Shocking. Almost like when Putin invades a sovereign country because he has, for his entire life, wanted to take over this land that he falsely believes is rightfully his. And he does so in an environment where Ukraine's being supported by their allies. It's almost like the solution is not withdrawing support from Ukraine to make it easier for Putin to do the things they want to do, or saying, we'll give you, this is how I think they're going to get quote unquote peace once Trump's in office, forcing Ukraine to give up all of the occupied territories of their country that Russia now has militarily grabbed and go, we got peace. And then just wait a few years and then Putin, after having 20% of the country, whatever it might be, will go for more, which demonstrates the flaw in their argument about how it's the people who want to support Ukraine that are against peace. Then you have this.
Should Ukraine prepare for less aid from the United States after you're sworn into office?
Yeah, probably. Sure.
Why is everything sure? These are the most complicated and high magnitude, high consequence issues in the world. And he goes, yeah, sure. Healthcare plan, sure. Medical record, sure. Ending the war, sure. Yeah, I'll do it. Aid to Ukraine, lives on the line, thousands of civilian lives on the line. Sure. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it'll be less. We'll see. But I don't know. Sure. Then he gets asked, will former Congresswoman Liz Cheney of the Republican Party, who speaks out against it because he tried to illegally overturn an election, will you put her in jail or will you try to? Look at Trump's answer.
And Cheney was behind it. And so was Benny Thompson and everybody on that committee. For what they did, honestly, they should go to jail.
So you think Liz Cheney should go to jail?
For what they did.
Everyone on the committee, you think?
I think everybody anybody that voted in favor.
Are you going to direct your FBI director and your attorney general to send them to jail?
No, not at all. I think that they'll have to look at that, but I'm going to focus on drill, baby, drill.
He just did it. You just directed them. Are you going to direct them to go after your political enemies? I'll explain, if you don't know, what he is saying they should go to jail for. It's psychotic. But will you direct your FBI director or your attorney general to target them? No, I won't, but they should. Hey, on the biggest interview I've done since the election, I'm saying they should. They're going to see this, so please do it. But I'm not directing them, but do it. Otherwise, I won't hire you. So why should they go to jail? What crime did they commit? They made Trump look bad. So Gitmo. That they did what they're supposed to do. They acted in their authority to demonstrate checks and balances, overseeing an investigation by Congress into what Trump did to cause January 6th, what led up to it with his attempts to prevent Biden from coming into office after Trump lost the election, and the aftermath of it. Who conspired? How did these plans come together? And speaking to a lot of people who were working for Trump when that happened, and it made them no longer loyal for obvious reasons, you know, the Constitution and stuff. And Trump says because they dared to vote to create the committee or to do the criminal referrals, which just means they go, hey, Justice Department, you should look into this. They should be in jail. Can't cite a crime because there isn't one, but they should be in jail for daring to get to the truth about his anti-democratic actions. But they say it's our side being provocative for pointing to that and going, fascism? Oh no. You can't use that word. What do you call that? Then this.
Let me ask you about some of your other promises on this topic. You've promised to end birthright citizenship on day one. Is that still your plan?
Yeah, absolutely.
The 14th Amendment, though, says that, quote, all persons born in the United States are citizens. Can you get around the 14th Amendment with an executive
action? We're going to have to get a change. We'll maybe have to go back to the people, but we have to end it. We're the only country that has it.
Through an executive action?
You know, we're the only country that has it. Do you know, if somebody sets a foot, just a foot, 1 foot, you don't need two, on our land, congratulations, you are now a citizen of the United States of America. Yes.
That's not true.
We're going to end that because it's ridiculous.
Through executive action?
Well, if we can, through executive action. I was going to...
Okay, so let me explain what happens here. Okay, so somebody enters the country illegally. They then have a child. Let's say that child, as happens, this is DACA, grows up. All they know is America. Their home has always ever been America. They went to school in America. Their friends are in America. Trump says maybe that person's 29 years old now. That person should have, against what is said in the 14th Amendment, their citizenship revoked and should be sent to a country they've never lived in. They have no association with other than their parents. And should just be dropped there. Bye-bye. And he's saying, yeah. And then she goes, what about what's the word for it? The Constitution. What about that kind of causes problems for that policy? And he goes, I don't know. Sure. Another sure moment. And then this.
So we had 11,000 and 13,000 different estimates, 13,099 murderers released into our country over the last 3 years. They're walking down the streets. They're walking next to you and your family, and they're very dangerous.
The 13,000 figure, I think, goes back about 40 years.
No, it doesn't. No, it's within the 3-year period. It's during the Biden term. No, that was a fiction that they put that out. This was done by the Border Patrol. It's 13,099, and it's during the Biden period of time.
Nope, and also nope. Kristen Welker correct. This was over the course of multiple decades. And I will say again, no matter how many times this is thrown out into the abyss and doesn't mean anything to anyone because nobody cares about facts anymore and everything's just about everyone's feelings, but more undocumented immigrants with criminal records were released under the Trump administration than the Biden administration. No, but on Fox News, I saw something different. I don't know what to tell you. Then he says this about breaking up families or not doing it, but sending back families with different citizenship statuses.
Let me ask you about another group of people, the estimated 4 million families in America who have mixed immigration status. So I'm talking about parents who might be here illegally, but the kids are here legally. Your borders are
You're talking about separation.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are two aspects to this. Your border czar, Tom Homan, said they can be deported together. Correct. Is that the plan?
Well, that way you keep well, I don't want to be breaking up families, so the only way you don't break up the family is you keep them together and you have to send them all back.
Even kids who are here legally?
Well, what you're going to do if they want to stay with the father? Look, we have to have rules and regulations. You can always find something out like, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. I'll tell you what's going to be horrible. When we take a wonderful young woman who's with a criminal and they show the woman, and she could stay by the law, but they show the woman being taken out, or they want her out, and your cameras are focused on her as she's crying, as she's being taken out of our country, and then the public turns against us. But we have to do our job.
All right, so he doesn't even engage, really, except for saying, yeah, I guess we're going to send legal immigrants back to countries, as he words it. Again, in the case of a kid who's here legally, they're not being sent back anywhere. They're being sent somewhere for the first time. Probably contrary to what is allowed from those countries. And then finally, we'll get to the topic of tariffs. The more Trump talks about tariffs, the less he understands about them.
I want to delve into one of your signature promises on the campaign trail, which was to end inflation, to lower prices. You are now proposing tariffs against the United States' three biggest trading partners. Economists of all stripes say that ultimately consumers pay the price of tariffs.
I don't believe
Can
it.
you guarantee American families won't pay more?
I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee tomorrow. But I can say that if you look at just pre-COVID, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. And I had a lot of tariffs on a lot of different countries, but in particular China. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars, and we had no inflation.
We did it! We did it! That's not how tariffs work. And no, you didn't have tariffs at all, like the ones you're proposing. No, because back then, little Dumpy of the past wanted to take credit for an economy he inherited. So you didn't actually rock the boat too much. So that you could say, I did all of this when you did barely any of it. Now, because you ran so much on this word that's so sexy, tariff, now I guess you're going to follow through on it. And you know what? Let's see how it goes. We don't even have to make it. We'll just experience it. You know how when I would explain how there was this global phenomenon of prices going up because of pandemic conditions, and actually if you compare our performance to other countries, we had a better recovery, brought down inflation faster than a lot of other countries. And I would explain all these things about the context of how prices went up. People would go, but none of that matters because prices went up. And I would go, no, I know, but I'm saying here's the cause of it. Let's talk about the broader context of the problem, not just talk about the problem. No, but people experience the prices. I know. Now we can actually make that argument. Let's just, I won't even make a single dang argument or prediction. Let's just feel. Because in this case, it will be Trump's fault. Because it will be the direct impact of a tariff policy, or he'll chicken out on it and he won't actually do it, and he'll try to take credit for Biden's economy. We will see. But whenever he says, every economist ever says that a broad 25% on our two biggest trading partners, 10 additional tariffs on our third biggest trading partner, that's definitely going to spike prices for consumers, which you could say you want to do. I don't know. And then you think the trade-off is good enough. I don't know. That could be your argument, but it's not. Trump's saying, I don't believe those economists. Well, what a world you live in. Here's more.
Field.
Sir, your previous tariffs during your first administration cost Americans some $80 billion. And now you have major companies from Walmart, Black & Decker, AutoZone saying that any tariffs are going to force them to drive up prices for their consumers. How do you make sure that these CEOs, that these companies don't, in fact, pass on the cost of tariffs to their consumers?
They cost Americans nothing. They made a great economy for us. They also solve another problem. If we were going to have problems having to do with wars and having to do with other things, tariffs, I have stopped wars with tariffs by saying, you guys want to fight, it's great, but both of you are going to pay tariffs to the United States at a...
So two little scenarios here and I'm not even going to make a judgment call on it. You will tell me what you think is correct. Option one is that Trump stopped a war or multiple wars with tariffs when he was president last time. And the humble guy that he is has never told us which countries he stopped a war with using tariffs. And there's no record of this, okay? And he decided while running for president twice, post being president or during being president, he would not tell the grand story with specifics of how he stopped a war using tariffs, which would make people like him better. But he just did it because he's great. That's option one. Ow. Oh, I just hit my finger on the desk. That hurt so bad. Getting too excited about this. Or option two is he made it up. Tough one. Last clip.
We're subsidizing Canada to the tune of over $100 billion a year. We're subsidizing Mexico for almost $300 billion. We shouldn't be subsidizing. Why are we subsidizing these countries? If we're going to subsidize them, let them become a state. We're subsidizing Mexico, and we're subsidizing Canada, and we're subsidizing many countries all over the world.
Okay. Let him become a state. That's what he's been saying. If Canada doesn't like his tariff policies, they could be the 51st state. I remember when I first started talking about politics in my personal life, I think I was somewhere between, to be accurate, I'll say somewhere between 9 years old and 14, okay? 9 years old and 12 years old when I started talking about politics. I know, too young, but I remember talking with someone and going, what if we just made Canada and Mexico part of the US? Then we would be even bigger. And they'd love it because America. And I just thought, shoot, why has no one thought of that? We would have crazy resources. We would have crazy economic power. We'd all get along because I'd be the one doing it. So they'd be like, sure, Luke, let's do it. And then I grew up like slightly the next day and realized that maybe isn't so simple. But Trump thinks of politics like a 9-year-old Luke. And I am really afraid of what that means for the next 4 years. You tell me what you think that means in the comments. Support the show, get the members only bonus show by clicking that join button below.